All right. So we'll do it in English because there's only English speakers today. So we've started Chelek Aleph Perek Hey, which was the way the Ramchal sees the makeup of the world, not the purpose of creation and the reason for Kiyum mitzvahs and what can be achieved through it. That we spoke about till now. Now in Chelek Aleph Perek Hey,
37.
Chelek Aleph Perek Hey,
37.
yeah, we're talking about Chelkei Abriya Umatzoveim Befrot. That means the makeup of the world and literally the structure of the world. How's it made up? So now we're now up to Ois Beis. Hanivroim Hagashmim. Hanivroim Hagashmim Yeduim Hem Etzleinu. V'chukeseim u'mishpateim ativim bichlolo mufusami. We know all about the Nivroim Hagashmim. That means everything we see in this world, the way it looks like that Teva creates it, and the rules and laws of the makeup of the world. It's interesting. I mean, even the greatest atheists amongst the scientists, they're all looking for the one rule.
What does that Tivim mean?
Tivim means natural. Hanivroim hagashmi yedum etzleim v'chukeseim u'mishpateim hativim. What do you mean chukeseim u'mishpateim hativim? It's the rules of Teva, the rules of the world. There are rules, the rules of the world. That means
physics.
The rules of physics, the rules of the physical world, the rules of the physical world. Gravity, all the different rules. Which is fascinating. I once read somebody said, even the greatest atheists, the scientists or the greatest atheists, they're always looking to make it onto the one rule. They're forever trying to find the one rule which is going to be able to, which all the other rules are included within it. So he said he doesn't understand. If things just happen, why should there be rules? If everything was just suddenly happened with a big bang and no intent before to do it, why should there be rules governing the world? Why should there be symmetry? Why should everything look beautiful? Why are you looking for rules? Because when there's a rule, there's a seder. Everything has a seder in front of you. There's 5 rules or there's 4 basic rules and everything comes out of that. But rules are only there if there was a creator who created it, so therefore you can understand that the creation was in the most beautiful form. It means rules are really the biggest proof that there was a creator beforehand. Otherwise, why should there be rules? And why should it all become one big rule and not 4 rules? No reason why it should be like that. Why should there be a symmetrical shape to things? Why should the equations work out beautifully? Why? We're forever looking for beauty and seder and rules in the physical world, which is the greatest proof of the fact that there is a creator. So it says like Hanivroim v'Hagashmim yeduim hem etzleinu v'chukeseim u'mishpateim hativim, the natural rules, the forces, the major forces which control the world, bichlolo mufusamim. Ach haruchonim, the spiritual world, ef shalonu letzaya in yonam heitev. We cannot in any way picture it. We can't imagine it. We don't have any way to imagine what these are. There's something which is completely not within we can't conceptualize something we've never seen. And this is very important. The Kabbalistic world is not a logical world. That means once we have the basic makeup of the Kabbalistic world, of the spiritual worlds, then obviously God created those worlds in a way that we can grasp them. That was the purpose of creation. The purpose of creation was in order for us to be able to grasp it. Something we can't understand, there's no reason we should have any way of, no reason we should be taught it. Nothing's written and taught if we cannot have some form of tfisa within it. It doesn't, there's no purpose to write such a thing at all. So this is very interesting. The Kabbalistic world is not something you can imagine. We can't sit and think, right, how did God create it? He created this world and that world and that world and that world and this guy and that guy. It's not logic. It's a fact. And that fact is a Kabbalah of Nevius. It's a Nevius. It's a Nevius which was Echeteli or Novi to the Arizal, to Pshim Yochai. It's Divrei Nevius. It's not something which they thought up. It's something which we have a Messiah, which was given it. And it could be the Rambam never had that Messiah. It could be the Rambam never had such a Messiah. It's only after that we know the facts, then there has to be, then we try to look for some way to explain them. So there's no argument over what it is. What it is a Kabbalah and a Nevius. And that's what he's saying here. No one thought it up. It's a Nevius we have. A Nevius of the Zoya, Nevius of the Arizal, which was Ruach HaKodesh. It's Ruach HaKodesh given to us. It's not worlds that he imagined. There's no Makiris in the Psukim for them. They are Divrei Nevius and the Messiah. And the Messiah going back to Adam Rishon, Sefer Yetzirah. Yes, some say Adam Rishon who wrote it. This is Divrei Nevius. We have a Messiah for it. It's only, but after that, we try to give it a form of structure. But the beginning of it is a Nevius. So he says, that's what he says. The Gufim, the Olam HaRuchni is something we can't be Messiah perfectly. We can't be Messiah. כי הם חוץ מדמיוננו. Now we're going to go to עברית. זה לא דבר שאפשר להשיג, ולא דבר שאפשר לדמיין. ונדבר בהם ובענייניהם רק כפי המסורת בידינו. זאת אומרת, אני לא בא לכאן לספר לכם סיפורים. I'm not giving you Bubba Mises. I'm not telling you something my shtickle Torah. This is not something which I could have thought up myself. Everything which I'm writing here is a Messiah given to us, and the viewers given to us through the Nevi'im, throughout the generations. והנה, I once saw something, אני אמרתי זה הרבה פעמים, ברוך השם, אני ראיתי זה כתוב. בעולם הישיבות, in the Shiva world, יש כמה דרכים של לימוד. There's פלפול. There was the Polish, there was the Hungarish way of learning. There was יש את צורת הלימוד של הישיבות הליטאיות, ישיבה של learning. ויש משהו שנקרא בריסק דרך. בריסק. מה זה בריסק? זה מאוד מעניין. בכל הספר של רב חיים סולובייצ'יק, אין שמה פעם אחת שהוא אומר לך ספרה יפה. There's no nice svaras. In the whole of the Sefer Reb Chaim, יש קושיות חזקות, והוא מוכיח שיש שני דינים. עכשיו, מה זה, למה זה, מה הסברה שעומד מאחורי זה, הוא לא כותב. לא כותב. למה? אז פעם שאלתי בריסקי גדול, אז הוא אמר לי ככה, אז הוא אמר לי, סברה זה דבר מאוד אינדיבידואלי, it's very personal. Sometimes יש דבר שאתה חושב שזה היגיון יפה, אתה חושב שזה לא היגיון יפה. אתה חושב שצריך שאין סברה? סברה, understanding, the way I understand it. The way I understand it. How would you translate svara?
Yeah, sure.
Logic? It's not just logic.
No, but you should buy my book and read it.
What's the word svara?
two types of spores.
Yeah.
There's a spore which is logic.
Yeah.
For example, Bali, Shabbos, Bali, Atzur.
Malito, yeah. Yeah.
That's no difference in changing the spores. That's a logical argument. Most spores are the moral argument.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Because I understand that. Yes. But it's all the why. Svaras are to explain why. There's a question, lama sheze kacha, and Svaras explain the why. And there's two ways to explain why. But there's something else. Reb Chaim never talks about why. He talks about what. He doesn't ever explain why it's like that. But he says, was steht. That means, he'll tell you that there's two psulim. It's muchach here, that there's one psul like this, and another psul like this. He'll tell you what, he'll never tell you why. And he never ever went into the explanation of what the why is. Because why is, it's a personal feeling of the why. It's not. So I always understood, I always thought, אני תמיד חשבתי the brisker derech, the first brisker was the Ramchal. The Ramchal writes for him to explain Kabbalistic ideas, not why. There's no, you can never explain why. Why God wanted like this, there's no such thing. But what it is. All the sefer of this is to explain what. זה הכל להסביר מה. זאת אומרת ככה, זאת אומרת שהמצוות יש שתי מטרות. שהיציר הסודום שתי דברים. למה זה ככה? זה לא. And I always thought that Baruch Hashem, the briskers gave us an inkling, a way of conceptualizing in a tiny form Kabbalistic ideas. Because the what is what's important. And then I found it. And they brought out the Sefer on the Shmuel Oibach. And they brought there, in the bottom, somebody showed it to me, that Shmuel said that the Yoidei Dovo in Litter knew that if you had a good kasha on Kabbalah, you could go and ask Reb Chaim. That means that the Yoidei Dovo knew that Reb Chaim Soloveitchik had sat and learned Kabbalah well. Carries on Reb Shmuel, and Reb Shmuel says, and I'm sure that his derech in Nigla came from learning Nista. Because when you learn Nista, the question is never why. The question is always what. Isn't it beautiful? But the Ramchal here is saying like this. We start off with fact, which is indisputable. Matchilim im yidiyah shezeh nevuah. And it's not because I think it. I can't imagine these things. After I've got the fact, we can start assessing what there is. But first, the fact is divrei nevuah. V'hine, Ramchal אומר ככה. Minei korim hagdolim. Maybe this paragraph is the biggest turning point, the biggest change there is between the Kabbalistic outlook and, let's call it, the philosophical outlook. והנה מני קוראים הגדולים שביודענו בעניין זהו. אחד מהעיקרים, I'd call it the basic, the yesod, the basic starting point of all sort of Havana in this part of Torah, which is the, let's call it, the Kabbalistic outlook. What is it? שכנגד כל מה שנמצא בנמצאים השבולים, נמצאים כנגדם למעלה כיחס נבדלים. תקשיב מה שהוא אומר. לא רק שהעולם הזה הוא לא מנותק. Not just that this world is not separated from the world above it, in the way the Rambam and the other philosophers, Jewish philosophers, understood. שיש עולמות עליונים ויש עולם תחתון והם לא קשורים, והמצוות שאתה עושה כאן זה בגלל שאתה מקיים את הציווי של הקדוש ברוך הוא. לא רק שזה לא נכון, אלא הרבה יותר. This world, מה שיש כאן, this world, I'm going to say in English, is a reflection of what's going on in the other worlds. There's a few languages.
They say, the Kabbalists.
Exactly. אני אתן לכם קצת הקדמה לפני שנקרא את המילים. יש שתי מילים שהרמח"ל משתמש בו בכל הספרים שלו. יש מילה שנקרא הדרגה. Hadraga. That's one of the words that he uses, hadroga. Hadroga means, literally, levels. מדרגות, hadroga. וזאת אומרת שהקדוש ברוך הוא ברא כל העולמות וכל let's call it ספירות as different levels, כמו מדרגות שונות. למה? כי הקדוש ברוך הוא האור של הקדוש ברוך הוא, אי אפשר שזה יהיה כאן בעולם שלנו. זה לא שייך. It's not possible. It cannot exist. There cannot be a meeting point of pure godliness and physical humanity can't meet. So הקדוש ברוך הוא created, אז הקדוש ברוך הוא יצר עולמות שהם משמשים כמו מדרגות, הדרגה. That is נוחס דרגה. Each and every step, כל מדרגה, זה מוריד, זה יורד. It's called סינון. It's like a form of filtering to filter the light. המשל שהרמח"ל משתמש בו בספרים אחרים, זה כמו האור שעובר דרך החלון. זאת אומרת, אם האור שעובר דרך החלון, אתה רואה את האור. אבל האור שמגיע אליך זה אור, it's not a different light. It's a light which is filtered. So he says the oira ein soif which we get in this world is not a different light. It's the same light, but it's filtered through windows. So that's hadraga. That means every world, besides the fact that every world's another madrega, and all the koyachs are other madregas, no, besides the fact each one's another koyach. That means there's oilam anashomes, let's call it, and oilam yitzira, and oilam asiyah, and oilam atzilus. And each one has a different purpose. Kol echad yesh tachlit acher. Yesh gam sfirot, chesed, gvura, netzach, hoid, bino, chochma. They all have a different purpose. But besides being a purpose, they also serve as filters. That's called hadraga. Hadroga. That's one of the, זה אחד מהמושגים הגדולים אצל בקבלה. אבל יש מושג אחר, שזה נקרא השתלשלוס. השתלשלוס means, השתלשלוס הכוונה היא שכל דבר משתלשל מהדבר הראשון. אני אגיד את זה באנגלית ורק תסביר. Let's look at it like cones. I'm giving you an example. An ice cream cone. Yes? And you've put ice cream cones one into another, into another, into another. So each one of them is sunken into the one underneath it. Each one, but here it comes, that's the way you picture it. But each one is really an outcome of the one on top of it. Each one is ki'ilu. The legs of the one above are the ones underneath. Each creation which is underneath the other. Let's give an example. Let's say Olam Bria and the Olam Bria and the Olam Yitzira. Olam Bria and the Olam Yitzira are two separate worlds, but they're really, each one is just an outcome of the other. It's like a filtered form of the one above. That means each madrega is not separate. It's not another thing. It is mishtalshel. It comes out of the one above it. That means it's like a clockwork system where each one is really part and parcel of the one above it. And each one moves the clockwork of the one above it. That's called hishtalshelus. Hishtalshelus is not just each one's a level below, it's more than that. Each one is the same as the one above. It comes out of the one above. It's like I am the legs of the one above. Each one is part of the one above him. He's just a lower level of it. It's even more than a father and a son and a grandson. Because it's the same thing which is actually coming out in a different form. So, Lefia Mekubolim, it's not just that this world is connected to the world above. It's not as if there's some sort of bridge. It means by the philosophers אצל הפילוסופים, אין קשר, יש נתק בין עולם הרוחני לעולם הגשמי, ואצל המקובלים יש גשר, there's a bridge. No, that's not what it is. There's no bridge between the worlds. It's all one continuation of the other. Each world is really an expression, a lower expression of the world above him. That means, when you talk about the Torah, was koydem l'kol ha'olamos. That means that the same Torah exists in every single world, just in a higher form. Because every world is the same world that we are, just in a higher form. אז כשהבן אדם למטה עושה משהו, או כשהבן אדם למטה, או אני שאני נמצא כאן למטה, מה אני? There's a me in all the worlds. It's just in every single world, I'm in a higher spiritual form. I am the lowest expression of the same me that exists in every single world. It's just mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing. The difference between the Kabbalistic outlook and the philosophical and the philosophers, it's just chalk and cheese. It's not that we are connected to above. We are above. Everything in this world is above. There is nothing here which is not there. We are just a lower expression of what's going on up there. It's called Hishtalshelus. Hishtalshelus means not only are we connected, but we're literally coming out of what's above us. We're mishtalshel from what's above us. We are coming out of what's above us, because we are the same thing in another form. Listen to how the Ramchal says it. Now after you've heard that. מניקורי מקדי שבינו בעניין זה, שכנגד מה שנמצא בנמצואים השבולים, נמצואים כנגדם למעלה, כיחס נבדולים. כנגד מה שיש למטה בעולם הגשמי, אותו דבר כנגדו יש, אותו דבר יש למעלה בכוחות נבדולים. שמהם, look at the לושנה, משתלשלים ויועצים אחד, בסדר אחד של השתלשלו שגוזר חוכמתו יזברך השבועים האלה. השופר כאן משתלשל מהנבדולים שלמעלה. הם ומקריהם. What's mean הם ומקריהם? אני רוצה שתבינו מה זה הם ומקריהם. DNA. We now know this DNA. It means you look something, but everything is within the DNA. The DNA we are made of is four. אנחנו עשויים, גשמים. אנחנו עשויים מארבע דברים. כך כתוב בחיים ויטל, ממה אנחנו עשויים? אש, מים, רוח ואפר. Four things. ארבע יסודות. We created from that. עכשיו זה דבר גשמי. אותו ארבע יש עולם הבריאה, יש עולם אצילוס, עולם בריאה, עולם יצירה, עולם עשייה. ארבע עולמות. והארבע שורשים, הארבע יסודות, כל אחד הוא נגד עולם אחר. ומה עוד יש ארבע? יוד קיי ווב קיי. השורשים ועולמות, זה הכל, if you look into Rizal, so Rizal's got the whole time. He plays with the four, you've got the four Yesodis, and then you've got, at the same time, you've got the four Elomos, At the same time, you've got the 4 Yud-Kei Vav-Keis, and you've also got Arba Patzufim, which are the 4 main koiches which HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with. It's called Abba, Ima, Zah, and Nuk. That's what it's called. And the whole time you'll see drushes made up of the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and the 4 Yesodis, and the 4 Elomis, and the 4 koiches. And you read it thinking, it's like, numbers games. The Torah says it's all one. It's all one. It's all one. Everything is one. That means the 4 Yesodis from which we are created, that's keneged a higher 4, which in this world appears as 4 basic elements. But those 4 elements in this world are mishtalshel from a higher form of 4, which that comes from a higher form of 4, which that comes from a higher form of 4. The same 4 appear, they are the same. The same 4 are the same. They're just expressions of the same Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which is not just the name of God. It's the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what He created the world with. The first, if you look through, I'm not going to, if you look in the Arizal, in the Zohar, the first form of Gashmias that was created, when the Arizal talks about the Bria at the beginning, so the first hit Gashmut, the first physical existence that there was, first thing that was created before the worlds were created, and we're talking about the higher worlds, there was a Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And then, in the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, there was different forms of the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which are expressed in Miluyim. That means the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei can be Yud Vav Dalet, Hey Yud Hey, or Hey Aleph Hey, or Hey Hey. The Miluyim, that means when you literally stretch out the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, you bring it out into its full form. That was the second thing. And there was 4 different forms. It's called the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei of Ab, Sag, Ma, Ben. 4 different forms of Miluyim of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And then there were the Elomis which it created. And then, you understand it? So when you're talking about a Hishtalshalus, you're talking about a physical form that exists here, in its most physical form. So you have the 4 elements, but those 4, why is it 4? What's 4? Why is it 4? Because they represent a higher form of 4. So what's the 4 higher form of 4 which is above it? The higher form of 4 above it is the 4 Elomis. Again, 4, meaning that's the more spiritual form of those 4, but that goes even higher into, it becomes koiches. That means the powers which created the world, which is the spheres, and then it goes even higher onto the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei has 4 ways to express it. So when you look into the droshes of the Arizal and the Zohar, it looks like a play of numbers. It's never a play of numbers. It's bringing the same idea into a higher and higher form. And there'll always be a common theme going through it, which that's the way for us to understand that it's just different ways of representing the same thing. So you have a play on the Dalet, 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 Dalet. You have it also on the Yud Spheres, Aser Sadibris, Yud Spheres, Adein Soif, Adein Soif. הם משתלבים יחד, למה
איך המספרים האלו?
בוא נדבר על זה אחר כך, זה לא לחשוב. Okay, but all this lies in this paragraph of the Ramchal, where the Ramchal says to you, not only is there a connection between the worlds, and not only are they interconnected, but they're all one just different lower forms of expression of the same one, which is called Ishtalshelus of one to the third. So he said like this: Hey, v'nimtzoim hakoiches ahem sheroshim lenimtzoim ashveim lamalo. That means the koiches, hakoiches shehem nivdolim lamala, hem hashorashim. They are the source. They are the moker lenimtzoim ashveim eile. V'hanimtzoim ashveim anofim v'toil des lakoiches ahem. We are not just an outcome, we are like a branch. A branch is not disconnected, it's an extension of them. We are nothing v'tol dislakeichas ahem. V'nikshonim ze boze ketabois hashalshalis. This is one of the most beautiful examples of the Ramchal. It's clockwork. That means like this: when you have a clock.
What means clock? Which words?
V'nikshorim ze beze ketabois hashalsholes. They're connected one to other like the rings of a chain. What's it mean? What's it mean? What's it mean by that? So in one of the other Sforim, he talks about it more. He says it's like a clockwork. That means what does it mean a clockwork? He's going to talk about that later. Not only are they connected, but in clockworks like this, when you move the, what's it called in England? How would you say it? What's it called? No, when you move the, no? Bashon, no? Do you know what I mean? When you've got two, no, don't mean that. I mean within the watch. Within the watch, there's the cogs, the wheels. Each wheel is connected to the other wheel. That when you move this wheel, the one on top of it moves also. So it's not only that each ones are like say stuck onto the other. Each one moves the other. Each one moves the other. Yes. It's like each one moves the one above it. Now, oid masayas biyodenu, shal kol etzem v'kol mikre shebenimtzoim ashveilim ha'ele hufkedu pegidim min hasug hamalochi shezochanu lamalo umasorim lakayim ha'etzem hahu או המקרא הוא בנמצויס השפעילוס כפי מה שהוא ולחדש מה שרואו ישחדש בשבולים כפי הגזיר העליונים. In this paragraph כאן הוא אומר there's an enormous machlokes between the Rambam, the philosophers and the Kabbalists on Hashkocha Protis. Enormous machlokes. The shit of the Rambam, which we'll talk about Bariches later, in Ramban al Torah, Ramban in Ioif, there's the Ran in Droshes, Arichas, enormous Arichas. The Rambam learns that obviously, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to stop Teva here, he could stop it. It's not out of his control, Chas v'sholem, like the Goyish philosophers understood. The Goyish philosophers understood, even if there were higher entities, but after they created the world, they left the world to us, and they're no longer responsible. But that's the Goyish philosophers. The Jewish philosophers, the Rambam never took it up to Kedekach, even though he said it was built on Aristotelian ideas. But the Rambam writes Mefurish that obviously if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to stop it, he could stop it. And not only that, there is a form of Hashkocha which HaKadosh Baruch Hu has on the prat, on the individual. But basically, says the Rambam, Teva, anything which is a continuous thing, runs on itself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created it with the way they could run on itself. And therefore, basically, according to the Rambam, besides at the end of Moed Avuchim in Ayin Gimel, in Samach Gimel, which we'll talk about later, besides Tzadikim Gedolim, he says the Min Enoishi and the Min of Behemoths, Yisrael could be maybe slightly different, they run itself. The nature takes its own course. God let things know. So Hashkocha Protis. I know he explains it. He explains all the Rambam, the whole shitta. And Mechadish Chol Yom Tov said it means because if he wanted to stop it, he could stop it. So there's Mechadish, he gives the ability for it to carry on every single day. But it carries on its own. And that means he calls it anything which is nature, which is a general nature, mino enoishi, mina behemois, a leaf that falls from a tree, all these things run itself. Because that's what God's created in this Bria. And so that's the Shitas Rambam in Hashkocha Protis. Yisrael, there's a Machlekes Rishonim whether the Rambam learns exactly by Yisrael, but that's Begadol Shita. The Mekubolim, the Ramban, who was from the first Mekubolim, the Ramban, and the Ramchal, and all those which go in his Shita. And later on, there's the enormous Arichis and the Ramchal about it. They're choyle completely. But the Machlekes is Poshet. The Machlekes starts far, means those who are not Kabbalistically educated, which you are now after this, don't understand what's going on here. According to the Ramchal, there cannot be such a thing. There cannot be nature which it just runs on its own. Because everything here is only an outcome of what's up there. If this world is disconnected, so it could be there's nature which runs itself. And I can understand that. That means after the Rambam understood that this world is disconnected, ad kedei kach that the Rambam said there can't be malochim in this world, there can't be a Bayis Shlishi which comes down, and there can't be nevuahs in the chaloim, because you can't have any connection to godliness in this world. So once we're in a disconnect, says the Rambam, Aristotle wasn't that wrong. That means the world actually does run itself. He was wrong that God can't stop it, but it runs itself. But according to the Kabbalists, there is no world. This world is only a reflection of what's going on upstairs. The Abba Yosef is my DNA. Do you want to know what the DNA of a human person is? His DNA is Yudke Vovke. It just looks to us here as it being the four elements, but it's not that. And the same me that exists here exists all the way up there, where there is no Teva. We are a reflection of the spiritual beings which are there on the highest realms. Therefore, there cannot be in such a thing as Teva running its own, running its own way. It can't be, because Teva's only here. There is no Teva. And there, in the spiritual worlds, everything runs according to what it should be.
So where's the hero here?
You're going to get to it. He's going to come to it now. So in this paragraph, the Ramchal actually says, I'm going to talk about it later, but there is no place. Of course, there's Hashkocha Protis, because Teva's nothing. In actual world, there's Malochim here, making sure that this world runs the way it should be, kafi, that it's being done up there. So of course there's Hashkocha Protis, because everything here is a reflection of the spiritual form. Now we have to just, I want to read quickly Gimel, and Omnom Ikem Metzias Ha'olam. Now let me ask you a question. Where's the real world? According to the Rambam, what do you mean, where's the real world? There is no world, it's only here. But according to the Kabbalists, where is the real world? Ikem Metzius Ha'olam, the ultimate reality of this world. Umatzovai ha'amiti, hu b'koiches hahem ha'alyonim. You're not living here. This is a reflection of what you're living. You're living there. The real me has no body. The real me is some spiritual existence. And what I am here is only a low reflection. So obviously you say, what's the next question? So where's the Bechira? That's where it's going to carry on to. It says, what we see and what we feel is only a reflection, a toiloda, of what's going on up there. V'zeh, bein b'ma shemitchilas habriya. That's not only in, that's shown clearly, this is a phenomenal thing. I remember when I first started learning the Arizals, he talks all about the beginning of the creation of the world. And it's got it's not negatus at all. At the end, after many, many pages, he comes on to what we're doing here. Why did he start talking about what was the beginning of the creation, how it was created? And he talks about it was first created, like I told you, it was toyu v'voyu, and then there was the little thing, the little yudke vovke, and then there was a first oilomis which had no gashmis to them, and on and on and on. Why is he talking about that? It's not just what there was once, it's what there is today. All those things exist today, and where really are we? All the way up there. It's not a history lesson. It's an anthropological. He's explained to us where human beings really live. The beginning of the Bria was that, and that's where we are. Bein b'ma shemitchilas habrioses, ubein b'ma shemischadesh b'schalfus hazmanim. All that is the realities up there. This is only a tetzah. Next week we'll talk about the big question.
Next week is Purim.
After Purim we will talk about the big question. And where is the place for Bechira?
Good.
Well,